Hi, today we'll be looking at how to set up the Tensorfuse GitHub action, allowing you to establish a smooth and easy CI/CD pipeline. We also have a blog in our docs which explains the same, so check out that as well. Link in the description. There are some prerequisites. You need to have a running Tensorfuse cluster to be able to deploy to it, which you can set up using the Getting Started guide. Next, you need to have access to that cluster, and you also need to have IAM permissions for your AWS account. First, since our cluster is on AWS and we want our GitHub Action runner to be able to access and deploy on the Tensorfuse cluster, we need to give our GitHub repo access to some of our AWS resources. To do this, we'll be following AWS's official blog, link in the description and the docs. First, we need to create an IAM identity provider. We add provider. We choose an OpenID Connect provider. For the URL, we'll be using token.actions.githubusercontent.com and audience as sts.amazonaws.com. We add provider, and there it is, our new provider. Next, we need to attach an IAM role to this that our GitHub runner action can assume. To do this, we click Assign Role, select Create a New Role. The web identity is the type of role we need to create. For the audience, we choose sts.amazonaws.com. Here you enter your GitHub organization or your GitHub account from where you'll be running the Tensorfuse deploy, where you want the action to be set up. I'll set Tensorfuse. Now the next two fields are optional, and leaving them empty will mean that you can run the Tensorfuse GitHub action from any branch in any repository in this account or organization. However, it's better to give granular permissions, and you can always change the trust policy later. So I'll be using the repository action demo and the branch master. Click Next. Now, since this needs to have access to the cluster, it needs some permissions. We'll add the S3 full access. We'll add the EKS worker node policy and the EKS cluster policy. Click Next. Next, we give the role a name. I'm going to give it GitHub user. Review the policy and click Create Role. Finally, we go back to our blog and run this command, the create identity mapping command, to give this role access to our cluster. This will require the role ARN, which I will copy from here. And there we go. Now all that's left to do is set up the GitHub action workflow, which I'm going to copy from here and paste it in my repository. Now I want to deploy this when I push to the branch master. I will also enter the ARN of the role that the action runner needs to assume, which I'll copy from here. Paste it here. I give it the project name, which is demo GitHub action. We also need to use the same name here. This is a pretty simple fast API app, so I'm not going to use any GPUs. And I'm going to use the default min scale max scale settings. So I'm gonna remove all this. Now you need to enter the Tensorfuse token and the Tensorfuse session ID that you can get by running the command cat ~/Tensorfuse/token. Now I'm not going to print these out because this is sensitive information, but you can take those and set those up in your repository in secrets. As you can see, I have created repository secrets as TensorCube session ID and TensorCube token in my repository. So I'm going to enter secrets.tensorcube token. I think there's this here, and secrets.tensorcube session ID. And there we go. That's all we need to do. I'm going to remove this. I'm going to git add, git commit, demo, deploy, and now I'm committing and pushing directly to master, which is bad practice, but this is for the sake of the demonstration. We go to our repository, we look at our action, and you can see that the deployment has started. Now that this has completed, we can go back to our terminal and enter TensorCube list deployments. We have our deployment. I'm just gonna send a curl request to this. And there you go. This is how you set up TensorCube with GitHub Actions.